it's need to go back into the community. Really should be it's not defined as well. The charity, I don't know. Quite a lot of charities. I think it's anything that benefits the community. That's part of a shift from social ownership, which is involved
I'll give you the analogy I think which explains the analogy I'd put on you're saying what they instantly change social changes or
I wouldn't
you can overlap, as it were, as
do you know what this? There is another thing about but there is this also this emotional thing.
That's the next section. The most efficient system, the sort of ecological system, is ecology. Nothing is wasted, everything is reused. No matter what's destroyed, the energy is created in some form or other. Perhaps one of the darlings of the sort of social entrepreneurship world in Canada. The idea being that if you mimic nature, you do it creatively. The ecology of commerce. And he really does start with
This is such
happy clapping.
Got the booby prize this time. This is the plenary What we'd like to do now is, we haven't finished the conversation, you'll be continuing, but what we'd like to do before we have the break is just spend about 15 minutes just gathering and sharing some of the insights that have actually come through from the two-table conversations already, so that everybody has opportunity to know what those were. The first question, how I'm going to do this is... I'm always going to step into that. I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about the last two conversations is this sense of really tying in both the market and income sources into any provision for social need, and that those are the really strong models that kept coming up again and again, were projects, organisations, businesses, social enterprises that see a need that they want to support, but then they do that by actually tying a marketplace into meeting that need, so that the cycle of benefit is already established and funded, so there's income coming in. And then in our last conversation, just in wrapping it up, was this idea that strong organisations are those where there is a culture for innovation and commercialism as well as for social good, and where people aren't lose the stigma
to having a really good commercial idea tied up with their social solutions.
Great, thanks dear. Would somebody like to build on that? Something that for you is connected?
I really saw that need for that passionate individual to get things going. But we use the analogy of that's like a starter motor, but they need to fire the engine. So you need to progress on to managing it and something more junky that's sort of going to go forward and last for longer and not actually necessarily move on from the starter motor, as it were.
Somebody?
And kind of replace that with business sense. So when you're pitching for investment, passion can carry you so far, but actually you do need to have that real commercial viability behind it. And just kind of put the passion aside for one minute and talk about sensible numbers and make sure you're going to be self-sufficient.
We had a comment that was connected to that was then when you're pitching an idea, a lot of social enterprises and businesses haven't solved all the problems yet to the money men. So we need the money men to understand that maybe there's 40% of the business that we don't know what it's going to be because we're making up as we go along. But here's the 60%, and we remove the passion and show them what we do know in a really well-constructed business model. And they've got to give us room to explore.
You said that really there's a need for proper, I think that was the described as proper business planning, rather than just saying there is an element of making it go on, but you're not going to be sustainable if you don't do your business plan.
And entrepreneurs don't tend to come from a business background, they tend to be ideas people, so they really think that structure.
I think we found one of examples when we were saying actually maybe the way to get over that is to actually say we'll take the risk from you. So if you take whatever the government structure is, they're looking at their different pots, but actually to say we'll take the risks from you, and if at the end there's money to be made, we'll take that and do what we want with it, whether we have to be private sector or social enterprise. But to be actually taking a problem away from local authorities, governments or whatever is probably quite a useful phrase to go at.
We had an example there, which is a very good company that we know, is a health consultancy, and they take on the primary healthcare budget themselves, so they're taking the risk on, and then they look at ways of delivering efficiencies against that budget. Obviously they don't do their job well, they're not going to make any money, or probably they're going to lose money, and there's something in the power of taking on that responsibility, so it kind of provides a commercial incentive to operate within a social context.
One of the themes that came up in a big way just now on our table was talking about waste, and whether that's a physical resource, such as diverting stuff out of landfill, or whether it's wasted opportunities, wasted labour from using labour from the local community that might not have had work opportunities otherwise. And a lot of the examples that we were looking at before kind of shared that in common, and then we started a discussion about looking at that in relation to basic ecology, and obviously observing that in ecology nothing is wasted. Every bit of waste is a resource, and if we can change our mindset to view every bit of waste in our society as a resource, then a lot of good can be done.
Just building on that point, we waste a lot of people in society, and I think, and that's because we look at them as a problem rather than a resource. If we were to look at people as a resource to build on rather than a problem to solve, this experience comes to me from working in the homeless sector, where we very often look at people as problems that we need to solve. And if we look, for example, we do risk assessments when we pass them around from organisation to organisation and refer them on, rather than potential assessment.